Welcome back to the Irish Bandit channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. Today we are continuing on talking about my 10 all-time favorite movies. If you haven't seen it already, you can check out the video for number 10 right here. We're just going to delve right into it. This is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. One of two that actually appear in my top 10. The other one you're going to see a little bit later on. And it has a lot to do with this one, but that's all we're going to say about that one. I absolutely love this movie. Great movie. Coming in at number 9, Batman Begins. Batman Begins was released in 2005 and was directed by Christopher Nolan and written by Nolan and David S. Goyer. Of course, it's based on the DC character franchise Batman, of course. How can it not be with Batman Begins? And it has an all-star cast of Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Rutger Hauer, Ken Watanabe, Morgan Freeman. What more could you ask for in a cast? Let's see. Screenplay by Nolan and Goyer. Story by Goyer. Produced by Charles Roven, Emma Thompson, and Larry Franco. Cinematography by Wally Pfister. What a name. Music by Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer we talked about earlier in the Last Samurai review, and James Newton Howard. Production companies, Warner Brothers. Let's see. It had a budget of $150 million and pulled in $373 million at the box office. That signifies success right there. It says here on Wikipedia that Nolan Goyer began development of the film in early 2003, aiming for a darker, more realistic tone compared to the previous films. Maybe even the original 60s TV series. But, I mean, the Burton/Schumacher movies were kind of dark. Well, the Burton ones were. The Joel Schumacher ones were kind of lighter and fluffier, I guess you could say. Primary goal for their vision was to engage the audience's emotional investment in both the Batman and Bruce Wayne identities of the lead character. I think that worked. Batman Begins premiered in Tokyo May 31st, 2005, and opened on June 15th in the United States in over 3,000 theaters. And grossed $48 million its opening weekend in North America, eventually grossing over $300 million worldwide and becoming the 9th highest grossing film of 2005. And there's a reason for that, because it is a great movie. Just quickly, of course, I'm not going to get too much into the story about Batman Begins, because that's not what we're about. But basically, it's the origins of Batman, how he came to be, how Bruce Wayne became the Bat. We see what happens. Now, they do change a couple things, because in the original story, young Bruce Wayne and his family are coming out from seeing Mask of Zorro, or the Mark of Zorro, I believe. And Bruce Wayne's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, are killed by a would-be mugger, Joe Chill. A lot of that they changed. The only things that they didn't change were the Joe Chill murdering Bruce's family, mother and father. But they were coming out of the opera, which I think, it works for this one. So we see Bruce Wayne get taken in by Ra's al Ghul, played by Ken Watanabe, and his assistant Deckard, or Decker. Is it Decker or Deckard? I don't remember. I'll have to watch it again. To become part of the League of Shadows. But when Bruce has a disagreement with Ra's al Ghul, a big fight ensues, and Bruce gets away and comes back to Gotham and decides to take up the mantle of justice within the city. That's all you really need to know about the movie. So I don't think it's a secret that Batman is my favorite comic book character of all time. There's just something about him. Maybe the fact that he didn't have any superpowers, like, say, Superman, or like the X-Men, or he didn't get his powers like Green Lantern. He didn't have any superpowers. He was just a really good detective and a really good hand-to-hand combatant, and used the symbol of the bat as a way to strike fear in his enemies. And I think that was really cool about him. I've always been drawn more to the more realistic side of things, like Batman, like the Punisher. heroes of that nature. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the superheroes, like Superman, like the X-Men, Wolverine, Spider-Man, like them all. But there's just something about Batman that spoke to me, and I really think he's had a bit of a choppy history when it comes to cinema. Like, I mean, the very first example of Batman in cinema is like an old 1940s serial that had Batman with like the worst looking costume I've ever seen. Then we flash forward about 20 years or so, give or take, and first time we see Adam West take up the mantle of Batman along with Burt Ward as Robin. There we go. And that one was okay. It served its purpose, you know. A lot of people give it flack for being cornball, but I mean, the one thing, it's not that I didn't like this about the Adam West series, but they always talk about how campy Batman himself is. Like, okay, I can understand that, but when they start ragging on Cesar Romero's Joker, Joker's supposed to be over the top, and I think Cesar Romero did a fantastic job with it. I mean, that dude was so badass. He wouldn't even let them shave his mustache. They just painted over it with white makeup, and it looked, you know, there were moments you could see where you could see the mustache, but they did a great job. Then we flash forward all the way to 1989 when the first Tim Burton Batman movie came out with Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. And I enjoyed that one. That was a really good return for Batman. It was dark, it was gritty, it wasn't the pow, pop, biff Batman. It was something more realistic. Realistic in a, you know, comic booky way, kind of. But I think as the movies progressed in that series, I don't know, something just happened, because Batman Returns was good, but when Joel Schumacher took over for Batman Returns and Batman and Robin, something happened. Like, a lot of people say Joel Schumacher ruined the Batman franchise. No, I think Warner Brothers ruined the Batman franchise, because they got rid of Tim Burton and they told Joel Schumacher, we want it more light and cartoony, and he gave them exactly what they wanted. So it wasn't Joel Schumacher or George Clooney or Chris O'Donnell who ruined the Batman franchise. It was Warner Brothers. When you leave it in the capable hands of somebody like Christopher Nolan, you're going to get something excellent. And that's what we got with Batman Begins. We got a really great origin story for Batman. I thought Christian Bale did an excellent job as Bruce Wayne. We're going to talk about Batman when we get to my gripes. I thought Liam Neeson was really good. It came off a little monotone. Again, I'm going to talk about my gripes. Ken Watanabe popping up again in another one of my favorite movies. I think it's just fantastic. He's only in for a short time, but he does a really, really great job. He just interacts well with everybody he's on screen with. Gary Oldman, one of my favorite actors of all time, as Sergeant in this movie, Gordon. Absolutely love it. Morgan Freeman, he's just a living legend and an icon of acting. Same with Michael Caine playing Alfred, which was some great casting. You can't go wrong with Michael Caine in anything he's in. Like, take a look at The Muppet Christmas Carol. Need I say more? There are just a lot of other great things about this movie, like the music. Hans Zimmer, again, such a perfection, such a perfect person to score the movie. Some cinematography in this movie was really fantastic as well. But yes, there are some things that we need to address, because this is not a perfect movie. So one of the big criticisms I've seen pop up over the years is that the action scenes aren't shot that well, and I tend to agree with that. I think the action scenes are shot just a little too tight for my liking, but they did improve as the series went on. But I think in this movie, the work of the camera is just not that great. It's not terrible, but it does get a little grating at times. And speaking of grating, yeah, we gotta talk about the Batman voice. Yeah. I think by the time The Dark Knight came around, Christian Bale was finally getting his footing as Batman, but I think in this one, he was kind of, like, it wasn't bad or anything, but just the voice got to be a little much after a while. I know that, you know, if you take a look at the Batman animated series, when Kevin Conroy would do Batman, he'd do Bruce Wayne as kind of a more tilt in his voice like this. I'm making him sound like Kermit the Frog, but I think you get what I'm saying. He'd have more tilt in his voice like this. But when he talked Batman, he brought it to a lower register. I am the Knight. I am vengeance. I am Batman. Like, you can do that and not make you sound like you're gargling with gravel. So, where are the other drugs? Swear to me. That's pretty much what Christian Bale sounded like whenever he was Batman, honestly and truthfully. But he did a really good job in the Bruce Wayne portion of the movie. We're talking about all three, but we're talking about Batman Begins here. As Bruce Wayne, he was really, really good and really, really believable. There are a lot of people who were like, "Oh, this guy made a great Batman." Like Michael Keaton, he made a great Bruce Wayne, but he made a lousy Batman. Val Kilmer made a great Batman, but a lousy Bruce Wayne. George Clooney made a lousy both. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that one. I thought George Clooney did well with what he was given, but we're not talking about Batman and Robin. But yes, I think in this instance, Christian Bale does a better Batman than he does a better Bruce Wayne than he does Batman, honestly and truthfully. And then as much as I am a huge fan of Liam Neeson in the Taken movies, I don't know, maybe sometimes his delivery comes off as a little too monotone at times. Like he's just talking in one voice the whole time, not changing his inflection at all. I sound more like Morgan Freeman there, but it could, Ra's al Ghul's or Deckard inflection, I mean, if you've seen the movie, you know already, but his inflection just never changes. It's always pretty monotone. Even at the end of the movie, he doesn't give like a big, ah. It's always one register, one monotone, ba 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 ba. So yeah, that kind of got a little bit on my nerves as well, but he still did a great job as Deckard, and I thought Liam Neeson was just fantastic in the movie. And then round out the rest of the cast, like I said, Michael Caine, you can't go wrong with that. Liam Neeson, of course, we just talked about him. I loved Morgan Freeman in this movie. He was just, much like Michael Caine, you can never go wrong with Morgan Freeman in a movie, be it, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, or The Shawshank Redemption, or any of the other movies. I'm drawing a blank on any other movies he's been in after Batman Begins. Morgan Freeman's just fantastic. The only real one that I kind of gotta take umbrage with is Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. I don't know. I watched a video recently about Batman Begins from the Nostalgia Critic, and I think he's right. She does suffer from like some sort of Peter Pan syndrome or something, where she just looks too young to be in the role she's in. Like, yeah, she wasn't a young woman when she did the role of Rachel in the first movie, but I don't know. There was just something about her. She just looked way too young to be in that role. But my gripes aside, I still absolutely love this movie because, again, huge Batman fan, and it was just great to see this movie on the screen. It was almost there, but didn't quite get there for being the perfect Batman movie. Now, there's going to be another Batman movie appearing much later on this list. Well, again, so close to perfect. So close to perfect. Not there, but damn is it close. And it is a movie I absolutely love. But we'll find that out very soon. So on the whole, I love Batman Begins. Again, not perfect, but still a fantastic Batman story to really jump in with. If you've never seen a Batman movie before, I think that's a good starting off point. But what did you think of Batman Begins? Let me know in the comments section down below. I'd really love to hear about it. While you're down there, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. While you're down there, you're also going to see a link in the description for all my social media, be it Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, my Redbubble store. You can pick up all your Irish Bandit merchandise. We have t-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, travel mugs, cases for iPhone, cases for Android, cases for iPad, mouse pads, masks, hats. We now have hats in the Redbubble shop. So you can go check it out, get all of your Irish Bandit merchandise. And yeah, I do have to say that I do get a cut of the profits, but I'll take all the profits to make this a better channel for your viewing pleasure. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, tap the bell and you'll be notified whenever a new video goes live. I will be back next Tuesday with number 8 in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. What movie is it? Well, if you want to know, who are you going to call? Talk to you Tuesday.